Good evening, everybody. Welcome to IncrediChat tonight. It's January 14th, Thursday. Welcome to another great IncrediChat tonight. Now, we got a really, really exciting guest star tonight, and I'm really excited. We've been doing these IncrediChats. I'm going from my basement studio. I've had this great poster up here the whole time. So many people have commented on it. But without further ado, please, let's welcome in our guest to tonight's IncrediChat. A great actor, and inspiring, I think, to a lot of young people who saw this movie. And I just think all the fans. Welcome to the IncrediChat, Sam Humphrey. Sam, welcome to IncrediChat.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Mike. It's such a pleasure to be here with you and everyone else who is here virtually watching as well.
Yeah, no, we got people over on YouTube and Facebook. I think probably people from Instagram, all over the place, coming here to see you. So, Sam, I was talking about this movie, The Greatest Showman, and we're definitely going to get to that. But what I want to know is, you're 27, correct?
I'm currently 26, but I will be turning 27 in April.
Awesome.
So, anyone wants to send me any gifts?
So, Sam, and you're from New Zealand.
I am.
Tell us a little bit about, before we get to The Greatest Showman, how did you get into acting? What is it like over there being an actor in New Zealand? You're in New Zealand now, or you're over in LA?
So currently right now I'm actually in LA. I'm in Los Angeles. I haven't been able to return home, with all this craziness that's happening with us at the moment. But 2021 is going to be a good year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Things will come. But tell us a little bit about life in New Zealand, and how did you get into acting? What inspired you?
Sure. So I lived in New Zealand till I was about the age of 13. Then I moved to Australia. So growing up in New Zealand, it's a little bit of a small country, so not too much happens there in terms of acting and things like that. So when I was about 13, 14, we moved to Australia, and that was kind of where most of my acting sort of started to pick up in terms of getting jobs and things like that. But in terms of my inspiration for acting, I've always had a passion for acting since I was 8 years old. And going into what actually got me into acting is my amazing mentor and friend, Hugh Jackman. I owe it all to him. So if it wasn't for him, I would not be an actor. Who knows what I would be doing right now.
Now, let me ask, did you know Hugh prior to this film? Did you encounter him before that, or?
So no, I didn't actually know Hugh before the film, which is kind of funny because actually when we were all working on the film, so myself, I'm not actually an Australian, but Australia has kind of claimed me because of the work I've done, and I lived in Australia for about 10 years. So they kind of claimed me, and they like to call me an Australian, but I am a Kiwi. So when we all started working on The Greatest Showman, myself, Hugh, our director, Michael Gracie as well, and actually some of our choreographers and many other of the cast members, they were actually all Australian. So it's kind of funny. Everyone there thought that we actually were kind of already friends and already kind of knew each other, but we actually all met on set for the very first time. At least I met all of them for the very first time on set. But yeah, many of us were Australians, and yeah, that's how we met.
Now let me ask you. And I'm going to come back to Greatest Showman. What is acting like? So you maybe did, I guess you did commercials, because I assume in New Zealand the film industry is probably not as aggressive as it is here in the United States, right?
Definitely. I mean, right now it's actually ironically very very aggressive over there at the moment, because New Zealand is one of the countries that is actually completely COVID clean. So the movie industry over there right now is actually ramping up quite a lot. But you are correct. Back, when I was younger, it was not very aggressive in New Zealand, because New Zealand is a very small country, and we're not like the Hollywood of the world. So growing up in New Zealand, it was very difficult for me to, get into acting. However, that didn't stop my passion, nevertheless. Growing up with family friends, this was when we were really young, we would put on these little plays for our parents, myself, my siblings, and my family friends' siblings as well. So we'd put on these little kind of cute plays for our parents, and we would make them watch them, because every parent doesn't necessarily want to sit there and watch them, but they do because it's their kid. So, so I did that. And that was where my inspiration for acting came from. And I really enjoyed it growing up doing these plays. And then, when I turned 8, I saw Hugh Jackman on the big screen playing his most famous role, Wolverine, in X-Men. Like, so, of course, I'm no different from any other 8-year-old who wants to run around with pretend claws on their hands. So that's what I did, of course. So I made these cardboard claws out of cardboard. I strapped them to my hands, and I ran around my house just like going, all of that kind of stuff that he does in the films. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. It was like one of the most funnest experiences of my life. And so that's kind of how I got into acting. And then I did it, I did it throughout high school when I moved to Australia. And actually my first job, you could say, like acting job, was a mini commercial. It was actually like it was kind of a student industrial commercial. It was a commercial to teach students how to speak English in like a working environment. And so I did that. That was my very first commercial. And then it kind of grew from there. So, yeah.
Now, let me say, you mentioned high school, because I shared with you before, we might have some young people who are into the theater arts in school now. Did you do a lot of theater in high school, like, school musicals, school plays, stuff like that?
Well, it's actually kind of funny that you mention like musicals, because I'm actually not that musically talented or that musically inclined. So in terms of growing up doing like being interested in musicals and things like that, my school actually really liked musicals. And so the very first performance that I was in wasn't a musical, thank God for that, because I probably wouldn't have been in it. But the next one after that was a musical. And because, I'm naturally talented, like as an actor growing up, like everyone said that I was very naturally talented. And so they always wanted me to like audition for the plays and for the productions, etc. And so for the very first one that I actually did, we did A Midsummer Night's Dream. And so I played Puck, which, of course, I'm small. So, of course, I'm going to play the small characters. And so I played that role, and they actually wanted me to audition. And the auditions used to be during lunchtime. And I'm small, I'm a slow eater and all that kind of stuff. And I like to hang out with my friends. So I was always like, I'm not going to spend my lunchtime like going and auditioning and like giving up my free time. Which is kind of funny because I'm an actor, which, is ironic. But I said I would never audition. And then so auditions finished, and they really wanted me for this role. Like, for some unknown reason, they just thought that I would like really shine in this role. And so auditions ended, and then they basically just cast me in the role because they knew that I would be perfect for it. And they weren't wrong. I really, really knocked that role out of the park, and I actually did get some awards for playing that role in our high school award show. So yeah.
Gotcha. And then so you were saying you went over to Australia then. We do have some questions here that are going to be coming up too, which is good. We'll get to those. So The Greatest Showman, I guess that was probably your first big role, if you will. Was that your first one, or some things prior to that?
Yeah. Yeah, so before Greatest Showman, like I said, I was in Australia. So I had actually landed a role on Neighbours, which is a soap opera in Australia and UK. So I'm also, from being on Neighbours, I'm also kind of known in the UK from that. Obviously, I'm more known because of Greatest Showman. So I actually did Neighbours for about 4 episodes. Then I auditioned for The Greatest Showman, and I landed the role, which, I was very happy about. But at the same time, I was a little bit saddened because, like, I was looking forward to, having a longer time on Neighbours, because I, really had gotten to know the people there, and they were quite fun to work with.
Gotcha. Now let me ask you, what was that like auditioning for The Greatest Showman? Like, how did you find out about it? And certainly, I mean, you got to meet your idol there. What was?
Oh yeah, totally.
And
I mean,
him right off the bat, did you? Or
so I auditioned for it. Actually, before I auditioned, I had an agent from the UK actually that I completely had forgotten about. I'd signed up to this agent maybe about 2 years prior to the audition to Greatest Showman. And I had completely forgotten about it, lapsed in my mind. And then one day I got a random email from my agent that was like, hey, we have this audition for 20th Century Fox. And at the time, it was actually called The Greatest Show on Earth. And I was kind of like, well, this sounds like a bizarre title. And then, of course, I was like, 20th Century Fox? Why are they coming to me? Like, I'm a nobody. I'm a no name. Like, how did they even find me? So I got this email, and I tell this every time, I was actually about to delete the email. My finger was on the delete button. I was like, this is a hoax. This is not for me. But in my mind, I was like, well, I'm an actor. Any audition that I get, real or fake, whatever, I have to do it. So I did this audition with my best friend. I called him up. I was like, I have 48 hours to do this audition. It's a tight deadline. Can you help me? He said, sure. We did the audition, which I actually still have the audition. And for anyone who would like to check out my self-tape audition to The Greatest Showman, you can head to my Instagram and watch it on my Instagram live TV. So that is a little treat for anyone who would like to see my Tom from self-tape.
Just so everybody knows. Yeah, no, just so everybody knows, for the Instagram, it's all scrolling here. The Sam Humphrey over on Instagram, the little guy's shop on Instagram, and then definitely the Cameo Facebook. So it's all scrolling there. But yeah, go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
Awesome. No, so we did that audition. We submitted it, and as most actors feel like once they submit an audition, they generally try and forget the audition, because most auditions either you won't hear back about, or maybe if you do, it won't be till like months later, because it takes a very long time for them to go through all the auditions and self-tapes, because they get thousands of them. Wow. And so I landed, long story short, I landed the role. About a week later, I actually got a call from my agent who said I'd been shortlisted. And then after that, I had a Skype call with the director, Michael Gracie, who I ran the audition again with him via Skype. He said he loved it. Next thing was I had to go and meet him in Vancouver, actually, which was a very, very long flight for a 1-hour meeting. So I flew literally 30 to 32 hours within the space of maybe 24 hours to have a meeting with our director, and then I flew home. But yeah, I landed the role, and I was very, very overwhelmed and very, very excited and very happy. But at that point, so I didn't actually know that Hugh Jackman was the lead. I just knew that, they wanted me for the part. And then I found out that Hugh was the lead. And it shocked me. I was overwhelmed by the fact that my idol and like all-time inspiration was the lead of this musical. So yeah.
There you go, sir. I mean,
Great
and
picture.
that must have been crazy when you realized, like, you walked in there and there's Wolverine, right? There's Hugh Jackman.
It was I can actually, so this is actually how we met. Not my proudest moment, but it is funny nevertheless. So I actually walked into Steiner Studio in New York, which is where we did the bulk of our rehearsals before we, went on to like set and everything.
Right. You guys did that here in New York. That's right.
Yes. Yeah. So I walked into the rehearsal space, and then there was our director, Michael Gracie. He saw me come in, and he goes, "Sam, how are you going?" I'm like, "I'm good. How are you?" I'm like, looking forward to, getting to rehearsals and all that. And then he say, "So, have you met Hugh yet?" I'm like, "No, I haven't met Hugh yet, but looking forward to it." And then he goes, "Okay, cool. Just stand right here. I'll go get him. He's just over there." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So here I am trying to keep my cool, it's like the only person in like maybe the world that can make me nervous right now. And he's, over there. So he comes walking over with our director, Michael, and he's like, "Hey, Sam, how are you going? Looking forward to meet you. Like, really excited to, work with you on The Greatest Showman." And I was like, "Hey, Hugh, how's it going, man?" And I'm like, not making a great first impression, am I? He's like, "No, not really." I'm like, "Cool." He's like, "So how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm good." And that was basically me trying to like cross my arms and play cool, like, "Hey man, how's it going?" It did not come off that way at all.
But I mean, I guess everything that they say about him really is true. I heard he's such a phenomenal guy in real life.
Oh my, he's the sweetest man on earth. I mean, when they say there couldn't be a more nicer person than Hugh, it's true. He's an absolute sweetheart.
Got you. And so talking about Hugh Jackman here, we do have a couple of questions here from the people watching. There you are with Hugh.
Yes.
So, we have a 10-year-old kid watching us, Holden.
Oh wow, okay.
And Holden's a fan of the film, and he wants to know. So you were just talking about Hugh Jackman. He wants to know about Zendaya and Zac Efron too. What was it like working with them? You're a young person. I assume you probably saw some of these guys on Disney Channel too, growing up, right? Or had friends who were in love with Zac Efron.
Oh, I mean, yes. I mean, I had countless of my, friends that were girls that were absolutely and completely head over heels for Zac Efron. So, when I basically can say to them all, I met him in person and worked with him, like, I mean, everyone goes nuts. They always want to know, what are they like? And, are they as sweet as they are in person and everything? And Zendaya, oh my gosh, she's phenomenally talented, super amazing. She is a little bit introverted, but when she comes out of her shell and you get to know her, she's so kind and she's so friendly. We had moments, when we were, backstage and like working on set and everything. She always came up to me and gave me like a hug and always asked how I was. And and as you can see here, this is me and her catching up at the Vanity Fair after party when Greatest Showman had just won our award, a Golden Globe, and was nominated for an Oscar. So yeah, and Zac also amazing. Yeah.
Now let me just ask you, because we're gonna get to some more questions too. Let me just ask you, when you guys were making this movie, it was one of those kind of movies that went through a lot of cycles in production, right? It was being made, it wasn't being made, and then when it finally came out, like there was a little bit of hype about it, but I don't think people realized it was going to go on to be like the hit film that it did become. Because I even remember like Well, I remember I didn't see it right away. I saw it later, and it was interesting. I went to like a 9:30 showing at the theater where I live, upstate New York, and there were some high school kids in there, and they must have seen it a dozen times because it wasn't a packed theater at 9:30 at night. It was like a school night too.
Right.
They were singing along with all the songs. So I mean, culturally, this film like really took off. All those songs, like this is me, like a huge song. You know,
huge hit. I mean, for us, we're in making it. Like, I mean, every actor, you know, everyone who works on the film, actors, cast, crew, directors, all of that. You know, our hope is that when we, you know, put our time into a project or that we're passionate about, you know, a project, obviously our hope is that it gets greenlit and that it gets made and that, you know, it really resonates with the audience and with the public. And this movie really did, I think. I mean, it didn't necessarily catch on that quickly. But in terms of catching on, we had probably one of the second highest multipliers of all time. So our multiplier was 18. So basically what that means is it stayed in theaters for an ongoing of like 18 weeks. And the only movie that has beaten us was Titanic, which had a multiplier of 21. So as we were getting up there, you know, we were all getting very excited because we really wanted to smash Titanic out of the park. But, you know, we're still very happy with how we did. And the overwhelming response from the public and from all of our fans has been absolutely phenomenal. The songs are just, I mean, I still sing the songs every day. Yeah, I can't get them out of my head. I can't get them out of my mouth. I can't get them off my tongue. So yeah.
Well, now let's talk about the music and even the choreography, because you stated you were not a musical person. So what was that like for you coming in? So you came off of The Neighbors over in the UK and Australia. What was it like off from that and then going into like this like really hardcore theatrical Broadway musical?
Well, I'll say it was definitely overwhelming. Not necessarily for the music side of things, because, like, I mean, I used to say like I would never do like a musical, and because I'm not musically, you know, inclined. But you know, when this kind of opportunity comes up, you definitely don't say no. I mean, that's, you know, number one as an actor, you never really turn down a role, especially if they want you. But going into it, I found it very challenging because even though, you know, I don't dance and I don't necessarily sing, that was something that I did have to learn to do on set. So I spent about 3 months learning to dance. I learned the choreography. I learned how to sing. I learned the songs. So that was definitely a challenge for me. Would I do another musical? Probably not. But you know, you never know where life and where, you know, acting will take you. So
well, I was going to ask you. I mean, unfortunately, right now nothing's happening down in New York City. But I mean, if at some point in time they ever were to do like The Greatest Showman on Broadway, is that something you would even be interested in doing nightly, two times the night or something?
Well, funny you mentioned that actually, because I've heard, I heard from my publicist that they are actually looking to possibly do a Greatest Showman on Broadway. And there have been musings about whether or not I would take on the role of Tom Thumb on Broadway. That's something I've definitely thought about and have been considering. But in terms of like acting, I really want to focus on like kind of live action and more action, heroic kind of things, because that's kind of where my passion is in terms of like the genres that I want to do. And then also animation as well is definitely one of my more prominent focuses in terms of like my acting career right now.
Well, you know, and that's funny. We have a question here. So you said action films. Would you ever want to play in a Marvel or DC superhero movie? I'm going to guess the answer to that one is probably yes, right?
Oh my goodness. One of my top goals, like ambitions as an actor, is to be a superhero. So, yeah, hands down, if Marvel or the Avengers or the X-Men came knocking at my door, I would 1,000,000% say yes. It would be an all-time dream of mine to be an action hero, superhero. So,
and we were talking beforehand. We're seeing your hat there. I'm sure you would love to be in a Star Wars film if that happened, right?
Oh, that is definitely something I am currently working on. I do have my team, kicking over every rock and every stone that they possibly can to land me an audition / set up meetings for me to talk to the casting people / team behind the big Star Wars franchise. So yeah.
There's a lot of that Star Wars franchise coming now too. So there's always
so it definitely with everything that Disney's doing with Star Wars right now, it definitely opens up more possibilities of me being able to actually get into the Star Wars franchise. So yeah, totally.
That would be cool. We have some more questions about The Greatest Showman. They want to know how much research, this is from Mike Stencil, how much research did you have to do when you were cast as the character of Tom Thumb? What was that like? Learning about him.
Cool. Yeah, so that's a great question. So for myself personally, I did a little bit of research because I wanted to find out a little bit about his life. But as I did the research, I kind of found out that me and him were kind of similar in terms of like our life story. Now, in saying that, obviously, I wasn't hidden away by my parents or anything like that. But when I say that our life was kind of similar, I hid myself away. So that's kind of what I mean by similar in a sense. I had a good childhood growing up, but I was very unhappy inside. And I think that's kind of what also led to me being able to naturally be a good actor, because I hid a lot of, my real emotion inside. And I always put on a happy face and a smile, when I went to school and was around my friends. So, and there's, for everyone who's watching, this might be a little bit heavy. So, I apologize, but it's definitely part of, who I am and my story and, what makes me. So going to high school, I always had that kind of, sadness and unhappiness inside me. And so when people actually found out, that I had been suffering with depression and that I had actually tried multiple times to commit suicide, they were very, very shocked. They were shocked to discover that I had attempted 3, 4, 5, 6 times to end my own life. So, so that's why I can portray different characters, and I find it very easy to, be an actor.
And certainly, I'm gonna guess like the arts really helped you deal with some of that depression and that expression. I imagine as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because exploring other characters and being able to be an actor. So as everyone knows, an actor, you're taking on a different character. You're portraying someone completely different to yourself. So you're that personality. You're their traits. You're what they're thinking. You're everything else but yourself. And so in doing that, I found that really helpful and really comforting to me, because I was able to kind of step away from myself and all of my, challenges and all my issues. And I was able to be someone completely different.
Yeah. And I guess now when you go out, because I assume people recognize you when you're out and about now. Maybe not so much now, we're all wearing masks. But after the movie, you're probably noticed a lot. Like people are like, oh, that's the guy from Greatest Showman. What was that like to get that fame? Movie, just walking down the street.
So that was a little bizarre. So obviously the fame side of things was totally new to me, with a lot of people coming up to me and saying, hey, you're Sam Humphrey. Well, actually, a lot of people didn't actually know my name at the time. They just knew me as that little guy. So that's what I became known as. And that's kind of my thing that I am known as today. I'm known as the little guy. And that's kind of also why that's my brand, and that's kind of the company that I'm starting, the little guy.shop. So people knew me as a little guy, and they always came up to me and said, hey, you're that little guy from The Greatest Showman, aren't you? I'm like, yes. Like, can we get a picture? Or, the pictures and autographs and things like that. I don't get that so much now, which I'm completely okay with. But even before that, actually, I didn't get the people necessarily coming up to me, but I got a lot of stares and a lot of confused looks because of my size and, my stature. I carry myself like an adult, of course, because I am. But I look, or at least back then, I looked very young. Now my facial features and everything have, I guess, matured a lot more. So people still confused, but mostly leave me alone. But back then, they always came up to me and asked, like, little boy, are you lost? Or where's your mommy? Or can I help you? And, that to start with, that was okay. And it was completely understandable because they wanted, they just wanted to assist me and make sure I was okay. But as I got older, it was very frustrating, and I just stopped answering those questions as I got older. So yeah.
Gotcha. And I just want to share here on one of our viewers here, Kim. Wanted to thank you for still being here. You're finding your strength in a lovely new way.
Oh, thank you. That's very appreciative of you. Yes, I am. Today, I'm a lot more confident, and I'm a lot more stronger in who I am, because I know what my identity is, and my identity is not found in what people think about me or my stature or anything like that. So yeah.
Now here we got this question from Lee. She wants to know, and we can talk a little bit about the special effects of this movie. Did you get to ride on that baby elephant and horse, or was that all CG?
Yeah, so most of that was CGI. Unfortunately, I didn't get to ride a baby elephant. That would have been absolutely amazing, because who doesn't want to ride a baby elephant? But the horse, riding on the horse was real. Not the part where I was riding around the rink, because unfortunately that was too dangerous. We did attempt that. But it was too dangerous for us to try and ride around the rink, around the rink at that speed. So that was actually CGI, and I was actually on a camera car. So I actually also have some images of that, and you can actually find those images on my Instagram and on all over my social media as well. So that was really, really fun, except I did get a little bit of whiplash because we were driving. So we came out of from behind backstage, and we were driving at about 30 to maybe 35 miles an hour, which is pretty fast. And we didn't quite make the turn at the right time. And so we ended up crashing into one of the support beams that was holding up the balcony that you see later on in the film as Zac Efron and Hugh Jackman are walking on it. So we crashed into that, and I was all, harnessed in, so I couldn't go anywhere. But basically all I did was this. And so I got whiplash, and it wasn't that painful, but it was still painful enough.
Now, because also special effect wise, because I read that you had to be on your knees also for it, and they, I guess, CGI'd the back of your legs out. So what was that like, acting on your knees? Because I mean, that must have like maybe been painful a little bit, right?
Well, yeah. Actually, that was very, very painful. And to take you back, actually, when I met our director, Michael Gracie, in Vancouver, that was one of the first things he said to me. And I just had to laugh because I thought he was joking. He said to me, he's like, So we've been thinking, the real Tom Thumb is, about 2.5 foot. And in order to get a greater height difference between you and Hugh, we want you to play the role on your knees. I was like, that's funny. He's like, what do you think of the idea? I'm like, wait, really? And I was like, I never thought I would ever be too tall for a role, let alone my very first role. So we actually, if I can get the image from our director, because I'd love to put it on my social media, we actually have a photo of him and myself standing side by side outside the hotel with me on my real shoes, on my knees, side by side him. And it looks absolutely hilarious because, he's a bit of a tall guy, and me on my knees, I'm obviously incredibly short on my knees. So but yeah. So
with that image we have up there right now, so literally like that, like how, like what kind of?
So this is the one with me and Hugh, but I have one that our director actually took of me and him at the hotel when we were, thinking about the concept. And when he took the picture, he had actually sent that to Hugh, and they just thought the idea was absolutely amazing. And next thing I know, I'm shooting for 7 months on my knees, so that was fun.
Like what kind of did they have in there?
Sorry, say that again.
What kind of padding or what kind of supports did they have for your legs?
Clearly not enough. It was, there was some padding in it, but when you're, doing takes for like 5 to 10 to 13 hours, no padding is enough.
Oh
so we put me in the knee boots, right? And then I did all the rehearsals, like dance rehearsals and all the singing rehearsals. And after about 3 months of that, we got to like the moment where we're actually going to do the dance numbers, to film them. And then one of the people come up to me and says, "So how are you going to dance on your knees?"
Oh my God!
I was like, "I'm not." And then it was like a light bulb moment went off in their head. They're like, yeah, you're not going to be able to do this choreography on your knees. And I'm just thinking to myself, so I spent 3 months of brutal choreography to at the last second be told that I don't need to do any of this. I was like, well, that's fantastic. It was a bittersweet moment. I really didn't want to dance.
Oh, well, it saved you a little bit, right?
But I did a little bit of choreography, as you can see in the film. I'm dancing on the bar, and then at the very end of "This Is Me," you see me standing there very proudly with my saber pulled out, out like this. So, yeah.
And then the other thing too, like they did a lot with you and your character, because then they altered your voice. That was the other thing. What was that like?
So that was actually very bizarre. I actually didn't discover that into a lot further into the process. So, like, for example, when the trailer came out, I didn't actually know that my voice had been dubbed yet. So I watched the trailer. I was like, "Is that my voice?" Even I was confused, to be completely honest. I was like, "I'm pretty sure that's not my voice, but I can't be entirely certain." And so I played it for, "That's not your voice." I'm like, "Yeah, I think they dubbed me." And so I was dubbed for the whole film.
Oh, so it's
I wasn't entirely happy about it, but at the same time, I was like, I'm just happy to have been a part of the film. So, it was an amazing experience. So.
People recognize you. So Holden, again, our young viewer, he had 2 questions for you, and we have another after this. First question is, and we talked a little bit about this. He wants to know, when did you know that this movie was going to be a big hit? When did it hit you? I guess.
Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, I wasn't necessarily thinking about that, actually. Obviously, like I said before, we all hoped that it resonated with our audience. And like you said earlier, it took quite a while for it to actually gain traction with the audience. And the first couple of weeks, like, I mean, when it opened in box office, it was, you know, it was very slow. And so we were a little concerned because it was, you know, it was an original musical, and at the time there wasn't very many original musicals, and so we were kind of wondering how this was going to play out. But as the weeks went by, and you know, I obviously was looking at the news as the weeks went by, and I actually then set up a Google alert to let me know anytime Greatest Showman was mentioned in any sort of search results or anything. And I think maybe after a few weeks to a month, when I started seeing, like, you know, record-breaking numbers and like the song like going platinum and all of that kind of stuff, I was like, we really do have a hit on our hands. And, you know, I was just honestly, I was very grateful to be a part of the film. And, you know, whether or not it blew up or not, as an actor, I was just very fortunate to be able to be in the film and be acting alongside, you know, my inspiration and role model. So that was the biggest takeaway for me, is being able to meet Hugh Jackman, let alone work with him. And he's now, you know, my good friend and mentor. So that's, you know, just mind blowing.
Yeah, no, that's great. Holden also wanted to know, when you're not acting, what do you like to do in your free time?
Great question. So when I'm not acting, I tend to do a lot of advocacy work. So growing up as a kid, you know, I faced a lot of challenges. For example, I'm hard of hearing, I'm short-statured. I spent a lot of time in and out of hospitals. I am also diagnosed. I was diagnosed very early on with Crohn's disease. So, and that was actually in the last few years, that has been one of my biggest challenges. So with dealing with all of that, you know, I like to give back, and I like to advocate on behalf of, you know, people with disabilities, because it's a huge passion of mine. And I totally believe in, you know, self-empowerment and, you know, empowering others to, you know, be successful and, you know, accomplish their dreams and goals. And so I do a lot of what I like to call rare advocacy. So that's my name for, you know, people with disabilities, because that's a term that I actually don't like using. I don't like to call it a disability, because, for example, myself, when people look at me, I'm not disabled, I'm simply short. So I don't like people putting that stigma on, like, myself or other people, because they may not be able-bodied like, you know, yourself or myself, but they have many unique, you know, talents and other areas that they shine in. So, and I'm all about, you know, equal opportunity and equality for, you know, everyone to be able to get the opportunity to do what they want to do. So yeah, I do a lot of advocacy and a lot of you know, talking, motivational talking as well in my free time. So yeah.
Nice. And you know, it actually is a nice lead to one other question from Jonathan. He said, "Hello, and how are you? It's a pleasure to meet you. I wanted to ask, I'm an aspiring writer, but it can be hard to not give up. What kept you going, and what was your strength when it seemed as if it might not happen? What pushed you forward and gave you the strength to fulfill your dreams?"
So that's a very, very good question. Thank you so much, Jonathan. So in terms of, like, always pushing forward, for me, I think when I was a kid, this was my ultimate dream. Like, there was nothing else on earth that I ever wanted to do. I wanted to be an actor, and I told everyone that I would be an actor. So I completely believed it 100%, like, in my mind, in my body, in my soul. There was nothing else I was going to do with my life. And I think it's all about the mindset, and all about being able to encourage yourself, and being able to push yourself forward when no one else around you really believes in you. And I think also with me, I had that support around me as well. like my family really believed in me in being an actor. And they also really pushed me towards being an actor because I did have another dream when I was younger. Wasn't very realistic, which is why my family definitely pushed me towards acting. I actually wanted to join the army. So imagine 5-year-old me doing push-ups and all that kind of stuff, trying to become this tough frontline military soldier man, which, you know, my family obviously saw that as a fantasy, which that's exactly what it was. Because I definitely was not cut out to be a soldier. And but about mindset and all about encouraging and hearing some feedback and being able to push yourself forward.
Feedback there. Sorry about that.
We are having some feedback. We're good. No, we're good. Cool.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
You were saying about the army. I'm sorry.
No. Yeah. So it's you know, the positive mindset about, you know, pushing forward and really believing in yourself. Yeah, I just want to be an actor, and I have the goals and the ambitions that I've set. So, you know, until I achieve those goals and those ambitions, like I'm never gonna give up. You know, so I know what I want to do with my life, and I think that's what everyone just has to kind of figure out for themselves.
Yeah, right. And I think the thing is to not give up on those dreams. I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Got you.
Now even when it's hard, and believe me, it has definitely been very, very challenging. The past year has definitely been very, very challenging.
Yeah,
so, and that's definitely, you know, it's definitely one point in my life where I have, you know, had that mental challenge of thinking, how do I push forward in my acting career with all of those challenges going forward?
Yeah, no, and especially for people like yourself who are for actors, and a lot of the people in the arts, this has been hard, you know, because production was shut down, Broadway has been shut down so much. I mean, regular everyday stuff too. But these channels, like, you know, like what do you do, and you really redefine yourself. Like I think the arts is going to be such a strong thing when the world recovers from this, because of the different ideas and, you know, the different things that people were inspired to create from what we're going through right now. You know, you really redefine.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I agree with you 100%. I mean, like last year has definitely been a time where a lot of people have done things and put their creativity to good use, where, you know, maybe they wouldn't have explored those options or those ideas had we not been forced to be locked down. So absolutely, I think this past year has definitely inspired a lot of new creative ideas, and will definitely push the entertainment industry forward in a very new kind of way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of the things I really believe is that when we leave this, I mean, for the longest time, and you know, we talk about like X-Men and a lot of like these apocalyptic things, but I think going forward, at least for a little while, like the way Hollywood is going to be, I think it's going to be some of like those positive, feel-good kind of things, because we've lived through like this dark time this last year. So people are going to need things that are going to pick them up and inspire them to, you know, to forward.
Yeah, for sure. And actually going off that, the past year has kind of also made me, like, you know, do a little bit of reevaluation about, you know, where I see my future heading. And I will be having a book coming out this year. I actually almost said next year because I'm still stuck in 2020. But so I will have a book that's coming out this year, and it is actually my autobiography. And through reading that, a lot of people will be able to see many of the challenges that I faced, not in just the past year, but ever since I was born, because from being born to like this point in my life, I definitely faced a lot more challenges than most people have. And yeah, it's been difficult, but I'm a very strong and determined person not to let any of those, beat me or hold me down. Yeah.
Yes. We have from Sergine. He wants to know, what was your favorite song in The Greatest Showman?
Oh, awesome. Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I don't know how to answer that really, but I'll give it a crack. I love all the songs. They are absolutely phenomenal. All the songs have their own unique qualities about them. Like, for example, This Is Me. That's the overall anthem for the entire movie. And I think that's the anthem for many, many people.
Yeah.
It's definitely an anthem for myself. But I think for me, I more resonated with the song A Million Dreams. And that's my personal, anthem from the movie. So I like to say that growing up, all I had was a million dreams. I came from a very small country. So I came from New Zealand, and growing up in New Zealand, I came from a very small town as well. And obviously I never want to talk bad about, my town or my country. I have a lot of Kiwi pride, and I'm very, very proud to be a Kiwi. But, nothing really happens in, my town or in my country at that point in time, especially when it had to do with acting.
Yeah.
And so, sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit. A million dreams. So I had a million dreams to, be an actor, and, to walk the red carpet, to work with Hugh Jackman, all of that stuff. And I talk about self-empowerment, and that's one of the biggest things for me is self-empowering yourself to make all of your goals, your dreams, and your ambitions come true. Because there are definitely people that will help you along the way at certain steps, but no one's going to go out there and make success happen for you, or will be more driven to make you succeed than you. So, you have to go out and do it. And that's, always been my anthem, A Million Dreams.
Nice. And then we have one more question too before we start wrapping up here. And you mentioned it before, and it's actually two people had the question. You said you like animation. The first part of the question is they wanted to know if you would ever want to be on a show. One of the you mentioned 20th Century Fox. They wanted to know if you would want to be on a show like The Simpsons, Family Guy, or American Dad, which then leads into the other question, which is, would you ever consider voice acting?
So in terms of the shows that you mentioned, I mean, of course, yeah. I mean, I would love to, be on one of those shows. Who wouldn't? And in terms of animation, I actually do voice animation now. I actually did a voice animation audition yesterday for, a very big role. So, yeah, I do a lot of voice animation auditions as well. And that is something that I'm trying to grow my skills in as well. And that's definitely, I think, something that will do very well for me moving forward, because the acting industry is tough, and especially doing, live action is very tough, especially for a person in my position. I'm a very niche kind of actor, and roles like Tom Thumb in The Greatest Showman don't necessarily come up every day. So, I try to supplement my income and my career by doing things like motivational speaking, and doing events and doing voice animation work as well.
And you mentioned events too. So I assume when the world is up and running, I don't know if you've done it before. Have you done Comic-Cons and pop culture events like that?
So I haven't actually been like a person at the event, like doing autographs or signatures. I did actually have one that I was signed up to in the UK, but unfortunately that was in November last year, and with the state of the world at the moment, we couldn't really do that. But I am definitely very excited to attend some of those and, be able to do autographs to people and things like that and take photos with my fans, because to be honest, I love my fans. I love everyone who, you know, who shouts me out, and I love everyone who puts love on me. Because honestly, me as an actor, a motivational speaker, me as, you know, a human being, I couldn't do what I do unless it was for, you know, for people like you know, interviewing me, and my amazing and incredible fans that, you know, put so much love on me and support me through the ups and the downs. And I've definitely had a lot of downs, so it means a lot that, you know, my fans support me through all of that.
You know, and again, thank you so much for doing this tonight. I mean, like we said earlier, I mean, you have, like, the world has embraced you from this movie, you know, and like you said, fans, everybody knows and loves you, you know, because that again, that movie has become such a classic, you know, and such a positive film. Like you said, This Is Me, you know, looking at the differences in people, you know, and that was the message of the film. You know, Barnum took all these different people from different walks of life, you know, and, you know, again, you're inspirational as well.
Thank you. I mean, doing a movie like this, not obviously has given me a platform to be able to share my own message. But the great thing about doing a film like The Greatest Showman is it really connects with my own personal message that I'm trying to share. Because I truly believe in, you know, everyone is unique and everyone is who they're meant to be. And so with, you know, with this message and my message connecting together, I hope that I can share that to the world and tell everyone how incredibly unique they are and how the world revolves around positivity and love and gratitude. And that's one thing I, you know, always try to share and post about on my social and when I do, you know, talking speeches.
Absolutely. And we just had a message from Wendy here to thank you, Sam. Good luck with all your future projects. Stay positive. That's from Wendy.
No, well, thank you so much, Wendy.
So let me just ask you now, if people want to get in contact with you, we have the Instagram here. We have Cameo. You do cameos. If people want autographs, is there a way to do autographs too? Or do you do anything like that? Do you have a web store set up?
So at the moment, I haven't currently been doing signed headshots and things because it's a little bit too difficult at the moment. I am in the process of, like I said, setting up the littleguy.shop. So there's the Instagram there, but I'm currently setting up an e-commerce platform where people will be able to buy clothing, apparel from me, and I will also put up a option for people to also be able to buy signed headshots from me and other sorts of merchandise as well. Excellent. And also my book.
Of course, the book too. And are there any other projects that you have coming up that you want to mention before we head off?
Yeah, so one thing I always like to mention is I'm working on a lot of different projects at the moment. I'm actually working on 2 amazing feature film animation projects. So hopefully they make some good progress this year and that we can, you know, release them or maybe next year. But definitely be on the lookout for my autobiography. That should be releasing, fingers crossed, maybe March or April. And if the state of the world allows it, I will be setting up a book signing tour and speaking tour as well. So, excellent. You know, fingers crossed that COVID settles down and we are able to do that, because I'll be coming to you.
Oh, listen, we will welcome you here in New York, 100%.
Thank you.
100%. So, guys, check out Instagram, Cameo, Facebook, Sam, all these places, which is great. And again, thank you so much tonight again for Sam. Right. Joining us, and thank you to all of you.
And one other thing, please don't hesitate to DM me if you want advice about acting or anything. You know, I'm completely open to give advice and talk, and I receive a lot of messages, about heavy topics such as, suicide, depression, mental health issues, and, about acting as well. Because I know that there are a lot of people out there that have a lot of questions, and I've been through a lot, And I really just want to inspire and help other people to overcome whatever challenges they may be facing and succeed as I have.
Excellent. Thank you again so much, and thank you to all for watching. So just hang out for 1 second, Sam. Afterwards, again, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It was a great pleasure having Sam here. Next week we're back here again with IncrediChat. Do you like Johnny Quest? Did you watch that cartoon?
I've heard of him. I haven't really watched it that much. I haven't really watched too much of what he's done.
Well, next week, Johnny Quest is an animated series. We're going to have one of the directors on for the real adventures of Johnny Quest. We're going to talk about that.
Oh, okay. Week. Cool.
Yeah. So, awesome. Tune in next week, and Sam, you're free to tune in too. But awesome. Guys, we will see you all next week on IncrediChat. Thank you so much yet again. Thank you again, Sam.
Thank you. Bye. Take care, everyone, and have a amazing 2021. I am sending all my love to you guys, and thank you so much for tuning in. You guys are all phenomenal. I love you all.